In today's video, I'm going to show y'all how I cook some of the wild game that my husband harvests for our family. So I'm so appreciative that he loves the sport of hunting, but he also is willing to go out and find food to harvest for our family. We don't buy meat at the grocery store. We either raise it on our farm, buy a half cow. Every year, we don't really buy chicken. We don't really have a good source for chicken right now. We are in the process of raising our own chickens, but this, where most of our protein comes from, is from the game he harvests. So I'm going to show y'all some of that in this video today. So first of all, we're making turkey spaghetti. This is just classic chicken spaghetti, but with wild turkey. And you can interchangeably use wild turkey in any chicken recipe, and I don't think you're going to notice any difference at all. This is the turkey breast that I'm going to be using today. I use this for turkey dumplings, turkey nuggets, anything that you would use chicken in, we use wild turkey as well. Now I am going to be using just the breast today. That will cook a lot quicker than the turkey leg, but had I had some of that dark meat from the turkey leg, it would have made this delicious as well. So I'm starting out by sauteing my vegetables. I have onions, peppers, mushrooms. I'm going to simmer that in some butter while I pull apart my turkey. So this is just the turkey breast that I boiled for about 20 minutes. Now I'm shredding it up. One of the tricks for shredding chicken or turkey in our case is using a hand mixer or a stand mixer. It will shred it very small and make it perfect for a dish like this turkey spaghetti. I'm going to add a little bit of flour to my veggies. Now this was not freshly milled flour, but I just grabbed some all-purpose einkorn from the pantry just to thicken up our veggies and make sort of a roux sauce. Now I'm using some broth. In that very large pot you see beside me is the turkey carcasses from the wild turkey. It's actually 3 of them in there, I think. Him and my son had killed quite a few turkeys over the weekend, and we were able to harvest all of that broth and all of that meat. Now for the noodles, you could just use store-bought high quality noodles, but I had made something with noodles a couple of nights ago. I can't remember what it was honestly at this point, but I had some extra noodles. So anytime I have extra noodles, I will dry them on a mat like this, which was perfect because I didn't have to roll out fresh noodles. I don't usually stock noodles in our pantry. I don't really buy them right now. We just make them. It does make meals take a little bit longer than already having pre-made bought noodles, but we love those homemade noodles. Then I'm going to add the turkey back to the mixture, let all of that toss together, top it with some cheese. I'm adding some pimentos and then getting this all tossed together, adding some cheese to help things stick together, and then we'll top it with some more cheese at the very end. Now we were having this after T-ball that night, so I wanted to get the entire casserole put together before we left and pop it in the oven, melt everything together after T-ball. Now we got home really late. I did not get a final picture of this, but this was delicious. My son requested that we have this every week. I don't make this meal a lot because, like I said, we don't buy chicken and we only have wild turkey when it is turkey season. So my family absolutely loved this turkey spaghetti dish. Next, we're going to be making a venison stroganoff. Now, this is a recipe from the Nourishing Traditions cookbook by Sally Fallon. I've talked about her book a lot on my channel. When I want a new creative way to use wild game, I'll always check that recipe book for an idea. So this is a venison stroganoff with sort of a creamy tomatoey sauce going over the venison. This is wild venison my husband harvested back in the fall and winter, and this is a loin piece. So this is like, we call it stir fry meat because it's not really the softest, most tender meat, but it is wonderful if you cut it properly and cook it properly. I had sauteed it in some lemon and pepper, and then I'm cooking it really quickly in some butter. Once it was cooked, pulled it off, and then made the sauce using some of the extra fat from the butter. There's really not much fat on our deer around here in Mississippi. We have such a mild climate. Our deer don't put on a lot of fat, so there's really no fat in our deer meat. But to make the sauce, it was bone broth, which I'm using the turkey broth that I made the previous day from those turkey carcasses. It calls for tomato paste, but if I don't ever have tomato paste, I just sub ketchup. It's pretty interchangeable. And then a cream. So I did not have any fresh cream strained from our milk, so I did use my clabber, which is just like coagulated milk. Here's that huge pot of turkey broth I'm straining up with those 3 turkey carcasses. I think I ended up getting about 4 or 5 gallons of turkey broth to put up from those turkeys he harvested over the weekend. So don't ever forget to make broth from animals you harvest. We do this with our venison bones as well as turkey, and then also like our pork and our beef that we get locally or raise on our farm. So always think about what you can do with the bones and the remains to make broth. Serve with our venison stroganoff. I had some over fermented bread that did not come together. This happens a bit when we're transitioning from winter to summer months and you have to retime the fermenting of your bread. So I had some overproof dough I just spread on a cookie sheet and made a flatbread. Not the best bread, but it goes along well as a side dish with any meal. And then I had made some baked potatoes earlier that day to go on the side with our meat and sauce. This was another delicious meal. I can always depend on Sally Fallon's recipes to be delicious, and another just a creative way to use wild game in our kitchen. For the last recipe, we are having venison roast nachos. So earlier that day, I put a venison roast in a pot in the oven with some bone broth, some of that more of that turkey broth, some flavoring, and let it simmer all day on about 250. Now I am cutting up chips. Now to make our chips, I just make our basic sourdough tortilla recipe and then make the tortillas as usual and then cut them into chip shapes. As you see on these cookie sheets, I sprinkled them with some coconut oil, some chili powder and salt, and am baking them in the oven for about 15 minutes just to get them kind of thin and crispy, and then we will top them with our toppings. So I'm going to shred up that very tender roast at this point. We love using roast for all other ways than just eating roast. My children don't actually love eating roast. We've eaten it so much. We've eaten mini beef roast, mini venison roast. So any way I can be creative with pulled meat like this, I try to do in our kitchen. So putting them on top of nachos was a great hit. I'm just spreading them across those baked chips, adding some salsa and then some cheese. My husband and I put jalapenos on our half of the nachos. These were another delicious meal. I always forget how good nachos can be and how much nutrition you can add in the form of your toppings. These were loaded with protein, loaded with flavor, and super delicious. To eat another venison roast. So I hope you enjoyed seeing some of these wild game recipes we use in our kitchen. And if you make any of these, I hope you enjoy, and don't forget to thank the hunter in your family for providing the meat for you to cook.